Vic Canellis Media Group, its parent, affiliates, or stations. VCMG Live is not responsible for any content, information, or opinions expressed. User bears full responsibility for their reliance on such content, information, or opinions.
Are you a family caregiver? Are you caregiving for someone who can no longer take care of themselves? Are you overwhelmed? This is Caregiver Solutions Info with Marsha Teal. Marsha will be hosting an hour of true stories and information, tips and updates of the latest research and necessary information in the caregiving field, focusing on you, the family caregiver. An Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert, Marsha has 15 years of hands-on experience at Arden Courts, a leader in assisted living dementia communities here in the U.S. Marsha covers everything you need to know as a family caregiver, especially if you care for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease or other related dementia or chronic illness. If you have a friend or relative that is also a family caregiver, call them now. They won't want to miss a minute. And let them know they can watch on caregiversolutions.info. And they can listen on WNN 1470 AM in South Florida or nationally on the iHeartRadio app. Now, sit back, relax, and learn from our host, Marsha Teal, as she brings information to you that may just be the caregiving solution you need.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the show. This is Caregiver Solutions Info Show. I'm proud to be your host. I've been doing this for 7.5 years, and I am so glad that you've joined us today. We have more information, new information to give you. This is the show created just for family, non-paid family caregivers. If you are caring for someone that has some form of dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, vascular dementia, doesn't matter what kind, if they have some memory loss and you are caring for them, then this show, it was made just for you. On this show, we talk about the causes of some of the behaviors that people with dementia exhibit. We talk about what is Alzheimer's, what's the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia. We talk to lots of professionals who can give you lots of tips. They are experts in their field, whether it's in regard to the disease or if it's in regard to how to better care for yourself if you are a caregiver. There's so much to learn. This is a new year, so we have another whole new year of new people, new topics, new experts, and new information to share with you. Today we're going to be starting at the beginning, so to speak, because we're going to start with the basics. A lot of people have spent the holidays maybe visiting and seeing relatives they haven't seen for a long time, even friends they haven't seen for a while, and they might have noticed something a little bit different about that person that they haven't seen. Something's not right. They're a little off. Maybe they repeat themselves quite a bit. Maybe they have strange behavior that's not explainable. And they're thinking, gee, what's going on? And so families are talking, trying to figure all this out, going to doctors. And if you're a family that unfortunately has a loved one diagnosed with some form of dementia, you are a new caregiver and you are on a journey. And this journey is going to take you many different paths. And it is very important to be informed, to be always a step ahead of the disease, because it can throw you for a loop. And the best way to be a caregiver without burning out yourself and creating chaos in the relationship is to be informed and get educated and find out what you need to know. So today we're going to start with some of the basics about Alzheimer's disease and other dementia. And I have just the person here with me today in the studio who's going to help us do that. Right now, I would like to introduce to you David Chavez Lopez. And David is with the Alzheimer's Association, the Southeast Florida chapter. Hi, David. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Marsha. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and to connect with all the caregivers at home. wherever they may be. So thank you for having me.
Well, unfortunately, the caregivers are all over the world because, as you know, Alzheimer's isn't, it doesn't make a difference of who you are, where you live, what country, what nationality, what origin. It doesn't matter because people all over the world can get Alzheimer's disease. And so
Correct.
I'm so glad that you're here representing the South Florida chapter, the Southeast Florida chapter. There are a lot of chapters all over the United States. About how many are there?
Yes, that's correct. With the Alzheimer's Association, about more than 60 chapters we have serving all communities in the United States. The Alzheimer's Association is a national organization, so we do try to be present in all communities. Yeah.
So if you're a caregiver and you're not from the Southeast Florida region, there are over 50 or 60 different chapters across the United States that you can plug into. So whatever information you're going to be learning here today with David, there's a David in all the different chapters and more people that you can plug into and connect with because they are there to help. And that's why we want the Alzheimer's Association to be here to give us all of this this basic information,
Yeah.
because once you learn about the disease, there's so much more to take in. But we have to start with the basics, I think, because people are just overwhelmed a lot of times when they get that first diagnosis, aren't they?
Correct. Yeah, lots of uncertainty, worry, anxiety, just different emotions that come with this. Alzheimer's disease is one of the most feared diseases that exists in the general public. So whenever there is some type of mention of dementia and then an actual confirmed diagnosis, of course the caregiver is going to feel lots of different emotions. And like you said, it's so important to be informed because that is the start to really go into this caregiving journey in the right way.
Yeah, and caregivers do become very fearful. What do I do? When do I do it? How do I know? So it basically starts at the beginning because you weren't, you have not gone to school to learn how to be a caregiver. They didn't teach this in school, and unless you already had experience with it in a family situation or with, friends or neighbors, you wouldn't know what to do. So
Correct.
We're here to help, and I'm glad that you're on the show today to talk about this.
Yeah.
This show specifically addresses anything for caregivers and anything about dementia. So we are going to start at the beginning. And you mentioned just now, David, that Alzheimer's is feared. When
Yeah.
people hear that, or they the word dementia, or they get that diagnosis of Alzheimer's, why is it so scary, do you think, for people when they hear that?
Yeah, because Alzheimer's disease and any other type of dementia, we know that it's a loss of memory, right? Loss of thinking abilities, of cognition, also changes in personality. And for somebody to have lived all their lives with their particular personality, with their strengths and weaknesses, and being able to remember names, being able to remember events in their lives, all of a sudden that stops, right? And for those around them to see that, that creates lots of fear. You're essentially, in a sense, losing the person that you've known all your life. Now, for the person also being diagnosed, that's very scary to think about, to think that I'm not going to remember the names of my loved ones, that I'm going to forget how to do my job. So many other things that are involved with the disease. Unfortunately, this creates a lot of fear, and that's what we see.
Yes, especially for someone who gets diagnosed early and they're
Correct.
able to understand what's going to happen. I can just imagine that fear and that anxiety because they know what's coming down the road for them.
Right.
And so you have a lot of fear and worry And so we want to try to help you all now in the beginning, and start at the beginning and get educated as much as you can. There's so many resources out there, and that's why Caregiver Solutions is one of those resources that you can listen to on iHeartRadio, you can watch on the web, you can listen to on Southeast Florida radio stations. But there's lots of information, and we're going to be talking later in the show about all the resources and how the Alzheimer's Association can help you get more information. But let's talk about the disease itself.
Okay.
There's an impact across this country right now,
Yeah.
where it seems, because of the baby boomer generation, people turning 65 and older, and it's one of the largest groups, the population, so it shows that more and more people are getting diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. What are some of the statistics that are out now regarding how many people are getting Alzheimer's disease?
Yeah, right now the number is over 6 million Americans are currently living with Alzheimer's disease in the United States. So that's devastating. But as we know, the disease impacts so many others, right?
Yes.
The caregivers as well. So, over 18 million Americans are caregiving.
Caregiving.
Right.
And not just caregivers who are the direct caregivers, but it impacts other family members as well.
Yeah.
Family members that are living together, if you're a multi-generational family, and you have
Correct.
grandparents all the way down to grandkids and everything in between. Everyone's affected by this.
Everyone's affected. The community as a whole is affected. Unfortunately, people have to leave work. There's lots of financial burdens that come with the disease as well. The healthcare field is also affected. There are so many people who are being diagnosed that unfortunately also the healthcare field is not positioned to care in the best way with all these high numbers and high statistics with the disease.
It's like a big tidal wave coming,
Right.
into our healthcare system.
Correct.
There's no good news, at least not right now, as far as what they know can prevent it, right? And there's no cure for it still. Here in 2023, there's still no cure, right?
Well, we're getting close.
We're getting
We're
close.
getting close. And just so you know, the Alzheimer's Association is the third largest funder of dementia research in the world, just behind the U.S. and the Chinese governments. And through all of our fundraising efforts, we are leading dementia research, and of course, trying to find that cure.
Yes.
In January 6th, just recently, the FDA approved Lacenab, which is the second drug approved by the FDA that can target the progression of the disease. But unfortunately, that only works for individuals who are in the mild cognitive impairment phase, which is very early on stages of Alzheimer's.
So it's like a precursor to the Alzheimer's disease diagnosis.
Correct, correct. Aduhelm in the summer of 2021 was the first drug. But again, it's not helping everyone who is already in that disease process. So the good news is that these are marquee events in the history of Alzheimer's disease, and these medications that are being approved are going to open up the gateway to hopefully future ones later that can actually prevent the disease for everybody as well. So
That would be wonderful.
that would be wonderful.
That would be wonderful if we could prevent it, if we could cure it.
Correct.
Right now, the medications that are out there are helping to track and slow down some of the progression of the disease, but nothing has really been shown to 100%, cure it or to just eradicate it. So we're hoping for that, and I want to. We're going to talk a little bit later too about how people can help and get on board to help fight for a cure, because that's what we need.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, some treatments even previously to these two medications that I mentioned, only addressing the symptoms, right?
Yes.
So almost like a Band-Aid, but not necessarily stopping the progression of the disease. So that's what we want to get to.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, absolutely.
yeah. We want more than a Band-Aid.
We want exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So this is great information, and we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back more with information on Alzheimer's and dementia in just a moment. Stay with us.
Arden Court's memory care community has the expertise and experience to simplify and enhance your loved one's life and to protect you, finding the peace of mind you deserve. Come, see the difference in a facility like Arden Courts that is 100% dedicated to Alzheimer's and dementia care can have on your loved one. Call us at 888-478-2410 or visit our website, arden-courts.com. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teal, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on caregiversolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
We're back, and my special guest today is David Chavez Lopez with the Southeast Florida chapter of the Alzheimer's Association. I'm so glad you're here with us today, David, to
Marcia.
share the information and give us all that we need to know about disease and what to look for. And we're going to talk about that now. A lot of people are, like you say, hearing the word dementia thrown around, hearing Alzheimer's disease thrown around. Are they the same? And what do people need to know is about differences between one another? I think that's one of the most confusing things that people ask me about all the time. What's the
Yeah.
difference between dementia and Alzheimer's disease? Would you like to share that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Marcia. So, dementia, we have to know that it's the umbrella term, right? The umbrella term to describe those changes in memory, thinking, and behavior. So, if we imagine an umbrella, on top of that umbrella, it's the word dementia, right? Underneath that are different types of dementia, such as the ones you mentioned at the beginning of the show. We have Parkinson's disease, we have frontotemporal dementia, we have vascular dementia, mixed dementia, dementia of Lewy bodies, and then we have Alzheimer's dementia, right? So Alzheimer's disease is a type of dementia. So it's right underneath the umbrella, and that's what's may confuse some individuals. But try to think about it as Alzheimer's disease is a type of dementia, just like lung cancer is a type of cancer.
Right. And I think that's what confuses people, because they hear the word Alzheimer's, they hear the word dementia, but there's a lot of other types of dementia besides Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. But isn't Alzheimer's disease the most prevalent one?
It is. It is. Between 60 and 80% of all dementia cases are due to Alzheimer's disease, that which has its own particular biological differences, and that's why we call it Alzheimer's disease. So Alzheimer's disease is a progressive brain disease that affects the brain through the formation of tau tangles, proteins that form inside and outside of the neurons. Essentially, what these proteins do, they destroy the neurons, which, as we know, are those brain cells that carry on the functions of our daily lives, right? Hold our memories, allow us to think and communicate. So when we start losing these neurons due to the disease, that's when we see those symptoms. But it is Alzheimer's disease. Again, it's a type of dementia that produce those dementia symptoms.
Yes, and other dementias have their own symptoms. Sometimes they can be similar.
Correct,
Right? But
correct.
there are identifying behaviors and characteristics of the different dementias where doctors can, with all of their tests, their blood tests, their brain scans, lots of different cognitive testing, that they can rule out maybe one type of dementia, and they end up saying, well, it's a dementia of the Alzheimer's type, right? Obviously, if someone has had a stroke, it might be a vascular dementia, right? Which is a lot different than an Alzheimer's dementia.
Correct.
So each one has their different characteristic, and each one has different ways that it presents in somebody. So it can be very confusing because the word dementia itself is not a diagnosis. If you would say, well, what's my diagnosis? And you would like mention about the analogy of cancer. Well, I have cancer, but the first thing someone says, what kind of cancer? They want to know
Right.
what kind, right? It's
Exactly.
just, yeah. So same thing with
Same
dementia. If you have someone with dementia, well, what you would want to know, what kind of dementia is it, right? And then you
Correct.
go on from there. So yeah, thank you for explaining that. Also, I think it's very interesting. A lot of people say, well, why do they call it Alzheimer's disease? Where did they get that name?
Yeah, about close to 100 years ago, Dr. Louis Alzheimer's was the first scientist that discovered these proteins that I was mentioning, the hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease. Hence, that's why it's called Alzheimer's disease.
Because that was the doctor's name.
correct.
Yeah,
That was the doctor's name.
he was a German physician, Alzheimer's, and they named it after him.
Yep.
Yeah, a
correct.
lot of people don't know that, and I just
Uh-huh.
think it's very interesting, where
Yeah.
it came from.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
absolutely.
that is where it came from. So when someone starts to be forgetful, and you mentioned a little bit ago MCI, which stands for mild cognitive impairment, how is MCI different than Alzheimer's disease, and how does it translate sometimes to full-blown disease?
Yeah, so mild cognitive impairment is essentially what is stating, right? Is that difficulty in the thinking process. You're starting to notice that you aren't as sharp as you used to, that you're forgetting from time to time how to express certain messages, perhaps some words from your
Like,
vocabulary.
Right on the
Yeah.
tip of my tongue, right? That word is, I know it, but I can't get it, right?
Correct.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And for example, also, if you cannot find that word, maybe it's using just so many other words to try to explain what that is. But you're conscious of these changes.
Yes.
And they start to disrupt daily life. So that's very important. The first stage of Alzheimer's disease is when we really see that very big change in the person's life, because they are not able to do the functions of their daily living or participate in the activities that they have been for so long because of this mild cognitive impairment, right? So it's now shifting into something more drastic. But the key is this preventing me from talking to my friends, going to a family function, doing my job? That's when we see mild cognitive impairment start moving into more of that early stage Alzheimer's disease.
Right. So what I hear you saying is people slow down in their brain thinking, their function. They can't think of words. They, get maybe a little bit mixed up on some things. But because they have mild cognitive impairment, it does not always progress to Alzheimer's disease, right? So they can still function. They have what they call executive function. They can
Correct.
still take care of their lives, their You mentioned ADLs, and for all of you that aren't familiar with that term, that stands for Activities of Daily Living, which is
Correct.
what we all do every single day. That includes bathing, dressing, toileting, eating, walking, all of that, right? And so if your memory problems have progressed beyond MCI, then you're looking at a true type of dementia, right? You want to get it checked out.
Yeah.
This is really good for people because as soon as some people say, I walked into a room to get something that I knew what I wanted to get, and by the time I got to the bedroom, I forgot what I was going for. Now, should they worry?
No, I mean, especially if you can go back to trace those steps, right, and find that particular thing that you lost, or find while you're in a certain place. But it is very important to note that we, as individuals who age, naturally are going to have less function in all of our organs, including our brains. So we are going to slow down, but right, is that going to affect my daily life? Am I losing things every day? For example, I can't find the car keys, or I place them inside the fridge, or maybe I get to a supermarket and then all of a sudden I don't know why I'm there or how to get home. Okay, these are the changes that we are now saying, okay, I need to talk to my neurologist. I need to really seek a full screening of my cognitive abilities here, because this is not normal.
Right, it's not normal. So it's normal to lose your keys, especially if you don't have a designated place every single day that you walk in and put them, right? If you're
Correct.
throwing them every which way, you're going to forget sometimes where you threw them. And I think a lot of people worry about this because they maybe have heard about the disease, maybe they have loved ones and they know that it sometimes runs in families.
Yeah.
But like you said, you want to worry about it if you can't retrace your steps. Think about, now, what was it that I came in for? Oh yeah, it was that certain book. And if you can think about it and recall, then you're probably okay.
You are.
You're
right.
okay. So people say, well, then why does it happen? And my answer to that is you're not paying attention, or you're under stress.
Yeah, stress causes issues with memory.
Yes, absolutely.
Depression as well. So there are different factors, different causes of memory lapses. And like you mentioned, stress or thinking too much about something, anxiety, these can also be reasons why we forget things. So not necessarily that you have a type of dementia. Again, it's very critical if you have some of those signs of dementia, the 10 warning signs that the association has developed, and I can talk how to get access to those as well. But it is key to seek a neurologist for that full assessment of your brain health.
Yeah. And there are little tricks that you can do to try to get yourself to remember things, because if you are super busy and you work and you're taking care of a loved one and you have children and you have pets and you have a house and there's a lot of stress going on and you're in the middle of all of this, you're gonna sometimes have things fall through the cracks. But
Yeah.
if you forget someone's name, that's normal. You can go back and no, what is that? And there are little tricks that you can do to try to remember people's names if that were to happen, which is a kind of a cool thing to learn how to do. But if you eventually think about it and you think, oh yeah, that's what it is, you're probably okay. But if things are becoming not normal and you're actually, like you said, putting your keys in weird places, in the freezer, right? Or throwing them in the garbage can, that's not normal, and that's where you want to go get help.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Do you have any tricks on that? Because I have one.
You do? You have a trick? Tell me your trick.
Yeah, my trick, because I meet so many people, wonderful people. And some of the tricks that I use to remember their names is as soon as they let me know their name, I associate that name with a famous person.
A famous
so
person.
a
Okay.
famous actor, a famous singer, an athlete, and somehow I make a connection between the two, and then I remember. So if somebody says, "Hi, my name is Mark," and maybe I connect them with Mark Anthony, then I say, "Okay, perfect."
So something in their mannerisms or their speech or
Yeah.
their looks that make you think that. Well, that's very, very good.
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
that. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be giving away a free book, a great resource for caregivers. So get ready with a paper and a pencil, and you can write down how you can get a free book. We'll be right back.
Somewhere at the corner of bewildered and confused is a lost mother, a father, a sibling, a grandparent. Wandering is a common symptom of Alzheimer's or related dementias and can often make those who care for a loved one feel just as lost. If you're looking for a place that's safe and secure, look to Arden Courts. Memory care is all we do. We know, we understand, we can help. To learn more, visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines.
You are listening to your host, Marcia Teal, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on caregiversolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
Welcome back. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our national sponsor, Arden Courts Memory Care Communities. Arden Courts is part of the ProMedica family of care. Arden Courts is so proud to be a leader in the care of people with memory loss. Not only do they care for those residents, but they also care for you, the family caregiver. And so because of that, they offer so many resources, caregiver support groups, they offer caregiver seminars in person and online. And today, because you're listening or watching this show, they want to give you another resource. This is called Untangling Alzheimer's. It's written by Dr. Tam Cummings. It's a wonderful resource for caregivers. This book is something that every caregiver should have in their home to learn about, whether you want to learn everything at once or you want to just pick and choose the topics. You can do that with this simple book that is really talked in layman's language. A lot of things that you might read on the internet are hard to understand, a lot of scientific words and concepts, but this is easy to read, easy to understand, and I would highly recommend you getting this book. The best thing about it is it's absolutely free just for the asking. All you have to do to get this book is send an email. That email address is delray@arden-courts.com. DELRAY at Arden, ARDEN -courts, COURTS.com. Just give them your name, address, telephone number, and tell them that you heard about this offer on the Caregiver Solution Info Show, and they will be happy to mail the book directly to you. It's a great resource. Again, it's called Untangling Alzheimer's. You'll be really glad to have this book and share it with others that you know may need the help. So today my special guest is from the Alzheimer's Association, the Southeast Florida chapter, and his name is David Chavez Lopez. And I'm here with him talking about all things Alzheimer's, dementia. We've been talking about the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's, some of the behaviors that go along with the disease. We talked about some of the things that happen in the brain that causes people to change, right? And we mentioned the first stage. The MCI could lead into the first stage of Alzheimer's, but not necessarily. That's why you want to go to a neurologist. But can you walk us through the stages? How many stages are there, and how do those stages progress?
Yeah, so we have the Alzheimer's Association has identified three stages the early stage, the middle stage, and then the late stage of Alzheimer's disease. So correctly, like you mentioned, after mild cognitive impairment, we move into the early stage of the disease. And this is again where we now see the individual having these memory problems, these thinking problems interfere with their daily life, right? So the person is very much conscious of what is happening.
They know, right?
They know.
At that stage, they know they can't remember, right?
Yeah, because
they
they're
know
seeing
that they
that.
can't remember how to do things they used to do all the time. And that causes them to get upset, right?
Absolutely upset, especially with those around them, right? Frustrated that they cannot do the things that they used to do. And of course, that's understandable. I would myself feel the same. And then we see also that the family and friends also start to notice that.
Yeah.
So at this early stage, the families start to say, well, my uncle was never like this. Why is he behaving like in this manner? Why is he all of a sudden not dressing well? For example, when he used to always wear a tie, and now he doesn't even iron his shirts. So at this early stage, we start to see some of those things that are not normal
for that person.
For that person, that's key. Not normal for that person, because we're all individuals, we're all different, but the disease, of course, is going to have that effect, and in everybody in a different way. So in that early stage, that's where we see that. Now, you don't necessarily need a caregiver at that early stage, because the person can still do many of their activities of daily living on their own. But once the disease continues to progress now into this middle stage, which is the stage where most people spend their time, there is a need for caregivers.
It gets risky then.
It gets risky. Now you have difficulty in communication. So we wouldn't be able to have this conversation if I had the disease. I would lose the train of thought. I would focus on something else.
Repeat questions all the time over and over and forget that it was just answered to you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then this causes the individual to also draw back from any type of social engagement. So the person starts to stay more at home and not to engage with others. The personality changes occur very drastically here at this middle stage because of those factors, and memory is hindered. So the caregiver
Is that where they take away the driver's
license? Correct.
That's a big one too.
That is a big thing,
Yeah.
because
They can't remember where to go. They get lost.
and not only that, also we also have to understand that if somebody has Alzheimer's disease and perhaps may have perfect vision, right, 20/20, but the issue here is the perception of that particular image. So if I'm driving on the road and I have Alzheimer's disease, and I think I see a car that is on my left, when in reality it's right in front of me, it's not that I don't see the car clearly, I do, but my mind perceives it differently. So the information is different because of this issues that I'm having with my brain. So that's why we say, okay, if you have been diagnosed, please stop driving, because it becomes very dangerous for you and for others on the road.
Yeah. Yeah, there are so many things that can go so terribly wrong, with driving, besides getting lost and not being able to comprehend when a light is green and red, because, I mean, everybody knows that, but because of the changes in the brain, they get confused.
Right.
A lot of times they get confused. Reflexes can be not
Correct.
as sharp and not as fast. So I've seen it since situations where people have put on the gas instead of the brake, and
Correct. Right.
yeah. So it's very, very, very hard. So then you said that that's where most people are for the longest period of time within the disease. What's the average time that someone actually lives with Alzheimer's disease?
Yeah, well, that is a tough question. We have a saying at the Alzheimer's Association that if you meet one person with Alzheimer's disease, you meet one person with Alzheimer's disease, because everybody is different. But I mean, somebody can have, somebody can have that progression be very quick, from that mild cognitive to the early stage, middle, and then late, very quickly in a number of years. 4 to 5, let's say, if it was a quick progression.
Right.
But then we have people who live 20 years, 25 years. We have people who live a long time in that middle stage as well.
Especially if they're physically healthy.
If they're physically healthy, if they are also being stimulated, at home in the memory care communities that they're part of, if they have a big and supportive care team,
Yep.
the individuals tend to live longer with the disease. Now, of course, the genetics for everybody is different, and the disease, like I mentioned, is going to affect people differently, but it's kind of hard to answer that question because it is very different for everybody.
Right. So it literally could be just a few years all the way up to 20, and somewhere in between, depending on the age when someone gets diagnosed, depending on your health, right? Obviously that takes a factor. And also depending upon, like you said, how fast the disease progresses, because it's going to be different in each person. And some progresses very slowly, and some fast. But it is true, though, that if someone actually has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's at an earlier age, it usually progresses faster than someone who's maybe diagnosed at age 85.
85.
Right.
Yeah, that's early onset.
Early onset. Which can be at what age?
Can start age 40, 45.
And people don't realize that. When they think of Alzheimer's, they think it's an old person's disease.
Correct.
But early onset, you can 40s, 50s.
Yeah, right. That's a misconception also. I mean, the majority of individuals and the biggest risk of Alzheimer's disease is age, but people who are younger are affected. But also, and I talk a lot about this to the community in regards to the factor around Alzheimer's, and we're talking also here an issue about brain health.
Yes.
So brain health is actually everybody's concern. Even whether you're 80 years old, you're 60, you're 30, whether you're 2 years old. So it is so important for us to really take care of our brains, even the younger generations. It's so important, and we're seeing that in the research that if we engage in physical exercise, if we engage in social activity, interacting with others, as well as mental exercise, right? Reading a book, playing chess, and then eating healthy. These 4 areas are benefiting our brain, and
certainly can't hurt.
they cannot hurt. They
hurt
cannot
you.
hurt. They can only benefit us. So that's so important.
Yeah.
That's so important.
Yeah. I know someone say, well, my dad did all of those things. He was very intelligent, and he stimulated his brain all the time. He worked out every day. you know, he learned new things, he ate very well, and he still got Alzheimer's. Well, my answer to that is, how old was he when he got it? Because if he didn't do all those things, he could have been diagnosed much, much younger, right? He was destined to get it, but he could have been a lot younger and would have really lost a lot of years if he hadn't been taking care of himself, his body and his brain.
Correct.
You know, so it can't hurt. So everybody, you know, it's a new year. I bet there's a lot of people out there that have some New Year's resolutions about taking care of their body. But now you need to add to it, take care of your brain too.
Correct.
It's the body and the brain, they go together. They
do.
say that, the doctors say that anything that's good for your heart is good for your brain.
That's correct. That's correct.
And that's the exercise, good for your heart, you know, pump up, get your cardio. It's good for your brain, puts oxygen up there, right?
Yeah.
Eating a healthy diet so you don't have all that fat around your heart. Well, that's good for your brain too. So if you
Yeah.
think about it, the heart and the head, they go together.
Yeah, there's a big connection. About a fourth of all the blood that our heart pumps goes directly to the brain. So our body knows the brain needs that rich oxygenated blood. And of course, that the diet is such an important piece because it's the fuel for our body. So eventually, of course, reaching our brain. And yeah, we want to be physically active. We want to engage also in social activity because when we interact with somebody, when we share a thought, a feeling, our brain is active, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we
It
want.
lights up.
It lights up. So, you know, all those four factors, so important.
Yeah, and I want to add one more to that: sleep, good sleep.
Good
because
sleep,
the
yeah.
brain needs to rest. And if you're
Yeah.
not getting a good at least 6-7 hours of sleep, optimally, you know, they say 8 is the best. But I know a lot of people that, you know, just can't sleep, don't sleep, they're getting 4 hours of sleep. That's going to affect you in the long run because the brain needs that time of sleep to, like you said, re-energize itself, to, you know, kind of clean itself out and organize and put things in the right file cabinet, so to speak, that's in our brain, right? And clear out the clutter. So sleep is another really, really important thing. So start going to bed earlier and get up and start your day with a better brain, I say. So this is all so wonderful news. I know that the Alzheimer's Association has a lot of programs that people can take advantage of that are free. And here in Southeast Florida, you supply all of that to so many people. Why don't you talk a little bit about some of the programs that people can get connected to?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Alzheimer's Association, and many people don't know this, we have free programs and services for families, for caregivers, for individuals who are being affected, and also for professionals as well. So here in the chapter that I am at in Southeast Florida, of course we have all of these programs available, but the programs that we have here are available throughout the nation. So these include educational programs.
Yes.
So if you want to learn how to deal with specific dementia-related behaviors, you can take an online class, you can attend a live virtual class, or a class in your local community. And we have a different number of topics for that educational piece, which is so important. We also have caregiver support groups, which are those groups where that allow caregivers to really talk to each other, not to feel alone in this journey, and really support each other. So we do have support groups available throughout the country, virtually, and also in your local communities in person. And then we have very important our helpline, which my colleagues there are master level clinicians who can provide free care consultations. So these are either individual care consultations or family care consultations, and they can talk to you at 3 a.m. on a Saturday.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Because that's when most crises happen. Seems to be at the
Yeah,
a.m. in the morning.
at times that are not necessarily, the norm, right? And that's why
Right.
we have it, this service available 24/7. And you can also get referrals to local services in your community as well. So again, this is all throughout the nation. The number to access all of these services for the association is what you see on the screen under my name, 1-800-272-3900. So please do call again, 1-800-272-3900, and it's all free and available to you.
So they can call that helpline for any reason, for any resource, to ask any question.
Any question, if you have a particular question about the medications I mentioned at the beginning of the show, you can ask. We have our dementia experts there, and they can tell you all the information that you want. If you want to know about sleep, you can get information on that. If you want to attend a live educational presentation, you can do that. And also, if you want to join the fight to fight Alzheimer's disease, we have a number of fundraising events and activities throughout the year where people can also participate on that.
Well, it just so happens that you are the manager of the Walk to End Alzheimer's for this area, for all of the Treasure Coast and for all of Palm Beach County. And so we're speaking to, the head guy here to help raise funds. So talk a little bit about how you can get people involved if they say, gee, I feel helpless, or my grandmother had it, I want to do something to honor her. How can they get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Walk to End Alzheimer's is the largest fundraiser in the world for dementia research funds, care and support, and advocacy and awareness for the disease. So it is a big deal.
Yes.
In the United States and all of our chapters, we have numerous walks. In Southeast Florida, here we have 5, but if you are interested in that, you can call the helpline and ask for your local walk, or you can also go online, alz.org/walk, and you'll be able to see the map of the United States and really click on your community. So, like you said, Marsha, this does provide an opportunity for individuals to honor the loved ones that they've lost, or to join the fight, even if you don't have any family ties to this. Our mission at the association is really to end Alzheimer's disease and all other dementias. So it is so important to join the fight, and you can do that through the Walk initiative. You can do that through the Longest Day initiative as well, and numerous events for fundraising for this great cause is what we have available.
Yeah, and I can attest to the walk. I've been involved in many over the last 21 years, and they're fun, right? They're a fun,
Yeah.
You get outside, you get some good sunshine and fresh air, you walk with your friends, your family, and you're doing a good cause and raising money. And so I encourage everybody to find out where the walk is in your area. I know in Palm Beach County, where we are, it's set for November 4th, and in the Treasure Coast, October 28th. So find a walk where you are. I want to thank you so much, David, for being here today and sharing all of your knowledge and expertise. It was wonderful.
Thank you, Marsha. Thank you for letting me be here in your show, and also to everyone at home and on the radio watching. Thank you so much. I hope that this was helpful to you.
I'm absolutely, I know it was helpful. And so if you do need more help, call the helpline at 800-272-3900 for the Southeast Florida chapter of the Alzheimer's Association. We'll be back next time. Our new time is, of course, is still every Tuesday, but it starts now at 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. And we will be back next week with another wonderful show on caregiversolutions.info. Or on your iHeartRadio, you can actually tag or search Oldies Florida, Oldies South Florida at 7 p.m. on iHeartRadio. to get us anywhere in the world, oldies, South Florida. So I hope to see you next time. Tell your friends and family about the show. I know it would be a blessing to them. Until then, take care, and we'll see you next time. Good night.
Thanks for joining us for this week's Caregiver Solutions with Marsha Teal. Join us next week as Marsha, who has 15 years of Alzheimer's disease and dementia care experience, brings you more needed information to help with the care of your loved one. This show can be seen again on caregiversolutions.info, and questions can be left on the site, which may be used on the program to help others. See you next week for more Caregiver Solutions.
The content, information, and opinions expressed during the related show are those of the show personalities and guest alone, and not those of Vic Canellis Media Group, its parent, affiliates, or stations. VCMG Live is not responsible for any content, information, or opinions expressed. User bears full responsibility for their reliance on such content, information, or opinions.
Along the sun-drenched beaches of Boca Raton lies AMP2 Media. We strive to bring rising stars and their fantastic work into the spotlight. From music to art, we have the tools and the talent you need to help you reach the next level. AMP2 Media is proud to announce our new scoring platform for reality shows, movies, and videos. We have the ability to highlight music according to what the eye sees on the screen. Our excellent mastery of music allows us into the deepest part of your film. Our different sounds allow your film work to come to life.